Hey guys, so today we're talking about eyeshadow palettes and specifically panning eyeshadow palettes. So I just kind of wanted to take stock of all the eyeshadows that I've hit pan on in my collection, and I also wanted to calculate the pan percentage, so the percentage of all the eyeshadows in my collection that I've hit pan on, and then I wanted to share some of my goals for the upcoming year. I really want to just start seeing more usage across my eyeshadow collection. A lot of my older palettes do have quite a bit of pan in them, but then some of my palettes that I've had for a while, I still haven't hit pan on any shades, and I don't always think that hitting pan is like the most useful or helpful metric to how much use you've gotten out of your collection. But I do really like to see those pans in my makeup because it shows me that I've really gotten good use out of my products and that I'm getting my money's worth. And I've noticed I have quite a few eyeshadows in my collection that I'm really close to hitting pan on, that I could probably hit pan on within a couple of weeks of use, and these are some of my favorite eyeshadows that I own. But I wanted to share some of the shadows that I would like to work towards hitting pan on over the next year, and I also have an idea for how I want to incorporate this into my 2023 project pan. So we're going to talk about all of that today. I also wanted to mention I did stop doing pan those eyeshadows. I did that throughout the first, I think like 4 or 5 months of the year. I did have a lot of fun with it, but I don't know if that structure is going to work for me long term. I think I would rather just pick which eyeshadows I want to work on rather than randomly selecting them. I might incorporate that back into my projects at some point in the future, but I think it's going to make more sense for me to focus on the eyeshadows that I already am close to hitting pan on as it is. But I will talk more in this video about how I'm envisioning my future eyeshadow panning. So first, I want to show you all of the pans that I currently have. All of my eyeshadow pans are currently within palettes. I am counting, for the purposes of calculating my pan percentage and everything, I'm counting every eyeshadow that I own that's either in a palette, in an individual magnetic single, or in a like individually packaged single, like a cream shadow. I currently only have 2 of those in my collection. They're like potted shadows, but I'm not counting eyeshadow sticks here. Since you can't really hit pan on those, I don't think it makes sense to include that in my pan percentage calculation. I'm gonna go ahead and share my pan percentage first before I show you the pans that I've hit, because I find this so interesting. I'm not very emotionally tied to this number. Like, I don't really have any specific goals in mind for what pan percentage I would like to reach. It's more just kind of like a for your information type of thing. So in my collection, I have a total of 288 pans of eyeshadow. Out of those, I have hit pan on 18. So that means that my pan percentage is 6.25%. I've hit pan on about 6% of my eyeshadow collection, which seems like a very small number. And I would like to see that number go up in the new year. So maybe this is something that I could do again like at the end of next year, where I check in and let you know what my pan percentage is at the end of the year, and I could also keep updating you throughout the year as well. First, I want to show you all of the eyeshadows that I've hit pan on. I'll just kind of go in no particular order. So first, I have the Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette. This has been one of my favorites for such a long time, and I have hit pan in 2 of the shades here, Tiger's Eye and Vibes. As you can see, those also happen to be my 2 favorite shades in the palette. Now, there are a few other shades in this palette that I'm close to hitting pan on that I would like to hit pan on at some point in 2023. Jade, Opal Aura, and Raw Energy are the 3 in this palette that I think I could hit pan on. Jade would probably be a little bit more challenging just because it is more of a specific color, and you'll notice that a lot of the shades that I either have hit pan on or that I'm close to hitting pan on are more neutral colors that I could tie in with any look. The next palette is another old favorite. This is the Profusion Mauves palette, and this is one that I actually did hit pan on through my Pan Those Eyeshadows earlier this year, and that is the shade Opal. This is such a beautiful shade. It's a light champagne color that also happens to work really well as a cheekbone highlight color, so I used it for that as well as an eyeshadow in order to hit pan on it. And I highlighted this palette as one that I would like to hit another pan on. I definitely think I could hit pan in the shade Kindly. This is a matte, really light blush pink color. This would honestly make a beautiful blush, and I love that these pans are bigger than your average eyeshadow, so you can pretty easily dip a face brush in those, a blush brush or whatever. And I also think I could hit pan on Femme. That one I feel like is even a little bit softer than Opal, so I don't think it would be too hard, but that's another palette I would like to start seeing some more progress in. Then I have three of my oldest palettes here are these three ABH palettes. I used to be super into collecting ABH palettes, not so much anymore. But first we have Soft Glam. I think this is my oldest of the three. And in this palette I have pan in Tempera and Glistening. Both of those shades are, of course, two of my most used shades in this palette. But another shade, this is actually the shade that kind of inspired this whole video because I was realizing that I was really close to hitting pan on the shade Rose Pink. I'm actually low-key just trying to hit pan on this at some point soon because this is currently in my everyday makeup drawer. By the way, I've been really enjoying this palette. I'm really glad I didn't declutter this earlier this summer when I was thinking about it. You might remember it was on my chopping block of products I was considering getting rid of before I moved. A lot of you encouraged me to keep this at least through the fall because it is such a fall palette. Let me just say I'm so glad that I kept it because I've been loving it, and I used to say I don't really like wearing brown eyeshadow, but lately I have been really into brown eyeshadow, and especially a matte brown look all over the lid. So anyway, that was kind of a tangent, but Rose Pink is the next shade in this palette that I would like to hit pan on. Wait a minute. Is there a pan in there already? Hang on. Okay, no, I don't think so. Sometimes there will be like a little particle, like a little shimmer that looks like pan, but I don't think it is. Either way, I feel like within the next 3 uses, I should be seeing a pan. But ABH shimmers, by the way, are some of the easiest shadows to hit pan on, and I think that one will definitely be next for me. Then I have Subculture. In this palette, I actually have 3 pans. One of them is itty bitty. You might not even be able to see it. That one is Mercury. You can see it has just the tiniest baby pan. This was also in my Pan Those Eyeshadows earlier this year, and I mainly used it as a brow shade, which is why it has such a small like dip in it because I was using a small brow brush in there. Then I've also hit pan in Dawn here, which I love using as a transition shade. Anytime I dip into this palette, I usually start out with that shade. And then also Electric here, which is really pretty like light greenish gold. Then of course the palette that I have the most pans in is Norvina because this has been my Pan That palette this year, which by the way, I've had fun with this because this is one of my favorite palettes, but I don't think I would do a Pan That palette again. Once again, as I've said so many times, I'd rather spread the love a little bit throughout my whole eyeshadow collection, and so I think I'm gonna have my eyeshadow palettes rotated in and out of my project pan in 2023. So that's a little update on my thoughts there. But in this palette, I am so proud to see all these pans in here because this is one of my all-time favorite palettes. I love the color story, and it just makes me happy to see all these pans to show just how much I have enjoyed this palette. So I have the most pan in Base, the matte cream shade. Dreamer also. This is one of those weird ABH pans that it's like the metal has corroded a little bit. It's not mold or anything like that. A lot of people have had this specifically with the shimmers in Anastasia palettes. It seems like the general consensus is that there's some ingredient in some of the shimmers that almost like reacts with the metal and causes it to corrode a little bit. I haven't noticed it bothering my eyes or anything, so I do still use this shade, but you know, just to let you know, that's why that pan looks a little weird. But that's Dreamer. Then I have pan in Summer, Wild Child, Rose Gold, Celestial, Dazzling, and my most recent pan is Love. Next 2 shades that I'm actually hoping to hit pan on by the end of 2022 are Incense and Volatile. Those 2 have pretty big dips in them, and they're really easy to incorporate in most looks, so I am hoping to see a couple more pans in those by the end of this year. The other 4 shades, Soul, Eccentric, Passion, and Drama, I'm nowhere near hitting pan on. I won't be upset if I never hit pan on them, to be honest, because, you know, there are other shadows in my collection that I feel like it would make more sense for me to use to the point of pan. Next we have my BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez palette. I have 1 pan in here, a pretty big pan, and that is the shade Sand. This shade actually did not take me long at all to hit pan on. I think I hit pan on this within just a couple of months of owning this palette. This is the shade that I always dip into first, or almost always dip into first when I open up this palette. I'm really not that close to hitting pan in any of the other shades, but there are a few more that I would like to hit pan on in 2023. And so this is probably one of those palettes that I'll roll into my project pan for like a month or 2 to try to hit a couple more pans in, but I think the other three that would be realistic would be Villa, Marina, and Beach Club, and maybe these two shimmers, Exotic and Coastline. The pans in here, from what I learned, they're not that deep, so I do think that this would be one of the easier palettes in my collection to start seeing a couple more pans in, so that is another one that I want to start seeing a little bit more progress on, especially because it's one of my favorite palettes. The last pan, okay, this one, I will admit, this is kind of cheating because I didn't actually hit pan on this myself, but it is a pan nonetheless. So this is my e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, and this is actually a palette that my friend sent to me that she had decluttered from her own collection. And this shade here, Tundra, was pretty much completely missing when I got it, so I'm assuming that when she got it, maybe that shade shattered and she just decided to toss most of it. There is still a tiny bit in there that I do use sometimes. There's a little bit you can see in the sides. I do like that shade. It's a silver, kind of a topper shade, but that shade, it does technically have pan, even though I didn't hit it myself. But this palette, I'm really not that close to hitting pan in any of the other shades, but I still would like to hit pan on at least one shade in here next year, because I'm always talking about how it is one of my favorite palettes. I love the color story. I think it's such a pretty color story all year round. So I will probably roll this into my collection and try to hit just one pan. I don't know which one it would be. Maybe Saltwater or Oasis. Maybe Mojave Mami. That's just one of the most common shades that I would use in here. Who knows? We'll see. That would be a challenge, but I do want to see some more pans in there besides the one that I did nothing to earn. I also have a few more palettes that don't currently have any pans in them, but I have some shades in here that are so close. So these are some of the shades that I want to work on first. First, we have my ColourPop Miss Bliss palette. This is such a cute palette. It makes me smile. And the shade in here that I am so close, I mean, I think I am. I've never hit pan in one of my ColourPop 9 pans, so I'm not sure how deep these pans go, but this shade right here, Palo Santo, has just a massive dip in it. Like, I feel like the pan has got to be, like, right there. I'm honestly surprised I haven't hit pan on that shade yet. A couple other shades in here, I don't know if I would hit pan on these, but these two mattes here, Woe and Vibrant Thing, these are very powdery mattes. They do kick up a lot of powder. They're kind of loosely packed in there. Woo! That was close. Those do currently have pretty big dips in them, but seeing how deep the pan in Palo Santo is, I still have a ways to go on those. But I do want to hit at least one more pan in this soon. Then we have another favorite. This one is sadly discontinued. I think Miss Bliss is also discontinued, but this is my Athr Beauty Rose Quartz palette. Well, I should say this version of the palette is discontinued, but they do sell an updated version of it now. This is the shade in here that I feel like I could hit pan on any day now. It's the shade Sandstone, another matte. This is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. The red I'm wearing as my eyeliner is actually a liquid lipstick. It's the Stila liquid lipstick in Beso Shimmer, which I will have a short coming out on that pretty soon if it's not already up. But this is the shade I have in my crease today. As you can see, it's a very soft beige color, but it pulls very rosy on my skin tone, which I love. It's one of my favorite shadows in my entire collection. Even though it's such a simple color, there is a reason why it has such a big dip in it. And this is another one where I'm surprised I haven't already hit pan because the dip is just huge. Then I have my magnetic singles collection, and this is quite an array here, quite an array of colors. So a couple of these that I did work on in my Pan Those eyeshadows earlier this year, I made really good progress on them, but then I ditched that series, so I kind of also ditched these shadows. But first we have this little single. This is the Natasha Denona single that I got as a point perk from Sephora. I think the shade name is Silk. The nice thing with magnetic singles is you can see exactly how deep the pan is, and I mean, it looks like I should have already hit pan by now just looking at it from the side. So I feel like that one would be pretty easy to go ahead and knock out. And then another one, this one would be a little harder. This is the ColourPop single in La Playa. I also have a really big dip in here, and I just would like to hit pan on this. These ColourPop singles that I have, at least the ones I have left that I haven't decluttered, are some of my oldest eyeshadows. I've had these for 4 years at this point, so I feel like it's about time to start seeing some progress in these, some, visible progress in pans. So that would be another one that I would want to work on. And then another one, this is such a beautiful shadow and it is criminally underused in my collection. This is from MakeupGeek, which is unfortunately a defunct brand. And this is the only MakeupGeek shadow that I still own. It's the shade Grandstand. It's one of their foiled shadows from their old, like their circle pans before they introduced the square pans. And this one I actually had to repress at one point because it shattered, and I did actually lose a little bit of product, so the pan isn't even full right now. It's actually kind of a thin layer, at least it looks like it is in there. I just want to use this more because it is so pretty. Let me swatch it for you. This is such a great one and done shadow. It's like a cross between a rose gold and a bronze. I feel like the swatch isn't even quite doing it justice, but it's such a pretty color. So that one I've got to give some more use. And out of all of my magnetic singles, I think that is my oldest because I remember when I ordered those MakeupGeek singles, those were the first single shadows, the first magnetic single shadows I think I ever bought. So I was like so excited. I built a little quad and that's the only one I have left, but it's beautiful. So that one I need to use. So those are the other shadows that would be on my top priorities to start working towards hitting pan on. So what I'm thinking for my 2023 project pan, I had this idea. So in my project, which by the way, I'm going to be doing quarterly project refreshes where I take like a week or two long break from panning and just explore my collection, see what I'm naturally gravitating towards. Somebody's got some road rage. See which products I'm naturally gravitating towards, and from there I'll choose the products that feel like they're going to be fun to pan. I don't really know why I explained that because it's not really that relevant to what I'm thinking for my palettes, but just to give you an idea of what my project is going to look like next year. But I'll pick a palette to start working on, and once I hit pan on a shade, that is when I'll roll it out and roll a new palette in, and I'm going to prioritize the palettes that already have a shade or two that's close to hitting pan, the ones I mentioned in this video that I want to work on. I just want to get the easy ones out of the way. Like I want to go ahead and hit pan on some of these shades that are so close. Some of these I've been close to hitting pan on for like a year or two, so I just want to go ahead and get that out of the way. That way I think I will be able to stay motivated, and so I'm not just working on this is the thing with Pan Those Eyeshadows that was a little challenging for me, is that most of the shades I chose would be like nowhere near hitting pan. So it was fun to use those shadows and like, you know, find creative like color combos to use within those shades, but it got a little discouraging when I was just like nowhere near hitting pan on some of the shades and I knew I never would. So of course I can roll those shades out, but I think I'd rather just start on the shadows that I already know I could easily hit pan on, and that way I'll be able to feel motivated because I'm like making solid progress, and hopefully we can see that pan percentage go up. So I'm excited. I was just looking through my collection and realizing I had so many shades that I could easily hit pan on, and I would like to hit pan on them because they're shadows that I've already used so much, which means I like those shadows. I naturally gravitate towards them, so I might as well use them more. So that is my video. I just kind of wanted to share what I'm thinking in terms of eyeshadow panning. Let me know. What are you planning on doing if you are a panner? Are you planning on doing any eyeshadow focused projects, or are you just going to kind of naturally use your shadows in the new year? Let me know what you're thinking. What are your favorite ways to pan eyeshadows? I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments below. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you had fun. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you very soon in my next video. Bye.